In this video we are going to take a quick look at the December Deathwatch tournament results, with both War Zone Nephilim and also likely the Army of Renown about to fade out. As expected for this month with the holidays and all, there were very few events to begin with, and Deathwatch attendance being what it is, we are down to the following two tournaments only: the Leicester 40k Super Major and the Feliz Exterminatus. In the first part of the video, we will go through all the relevant results and lists in an attempt to find out whether the Deathwatch can continue despite the underwhelming Space Marine win rates shown in the recent Metawatch articles. In the second part, we will then go through some of the War Zone Nephilim highlights, as well as what might be coming for us in January. At the end of the video, there will be a quick summary of what has been covered.
Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Tammer, and I will be guiding you through this video.
Diving right into the tournament results, first we have the Leicester 40k Super Major, an event featuring 235 players over 5 rounds. Here we have two Deathwatch players, Jonathan Patridge and John Burns, going 3-2 and 2-3 respectively, ending up on rank 112 and 146. For Jonathan, the matchups were as following: first two wins against Space Wolves and Tau, followed by two losses against more Tau, and then finally a win against the Sisters of Battle. Sure faced a lot of Tau there. John, on the other hand, started with a win against the Clowns, followed by two losses against Knights and more Clowns, then a win against Iron Hands, and finally a loss against Blood Angels. Looking at Jonathan's list, what stands out here is that he was in fact not playing an AOR list, instead going back to an interesting variant of what used to be our classic Dreadnought list. For cheap utility, we have the Void's Man-at-Arms as an Agent of the Imperium pick, the kind of stuff you can of course do once you are no longer bound to the AOR restrictions. For HQ, we have a Captain on Bike with the Teeth of Terra, a Primaris Tech Marine with the Tomb, as well as the Watchmaster with the Vorken. For troops, he took 3 Proteus kill teams, out of which 2 had cheap shotgun wets and the infantry bikes, while the third had 5 van wets. These are basically the kind of cheap but effective kill teams the Dreadnought lists were known for prior to the AOR taking over the Deathwatch meta. Coming to the meat of the list, we have double Redemptors and double Relic Contemptors with twin Volkites, as well as the Cyclone missile launchers. To round the list up, we have a squad of suppressors, the cheapest deep strike option, and also a quite interesting utility pick with their ability to turn off Overwatch. All in all, these sorts of lists have come out worse because of points increases to the Dreads, War Zone Nephilim rules, and also AOC rendering the Volcons less effective, but nonetheless, Jonathan perfectly demonstrates that they are indeed still playable, and if the rule leaks are anything to go by, they will only get better coming January. More of this later though. Interesting enough, John also played a Dreadnought list of similar style, which looked as following. For HQs, he had the Indomitor's Captain with the Dominus Aegis relic. He then also had a Primaris Chaplain and the Primaris Tech Marine with the Tomb and the Paragon of their chapter Dark Angel's Warlord trait. What a blast of the past! For troops, similar to the concept of Jonathan, he brought along 3 Proteus kill teams, 2 of which had infantry bikes and the third with the 5 van wets. For elites, he ran triple Redemptors and triple Relic Contemptors, with the latter not having the Cyclone missile launchers though. All in all, with the times of the AOR potentially coming to an end, it is interesting to see the Dreadnought lists reappear, and as mentioned before, there is a good chance that these kind of lists will benefit from the upcoming changes. Moving on to the second tournament, the Feliz Exterminatus, featuring 55 players over 5 rounds. Here we have a single Deathwatch player, Dick Johnson, going 3-2, ending up on rank 12 with the tournament winning list by Mikkel Klangby. His matchups were as following: round 1 and 2 wins against Custodes and Space Wolves, followed by 2 losses against Thousand Suns and Craftworlds. The 5th and final round was then another win against Craftworlds. Recently, I did a Christmas special episode with Mikkel Klangby, where we discussed War Zone Nephilim and his list in more detail. If you have not checked it out yet, the link is in the description. Bottom line is that while Space Marines may not have gotten much overall in both War Zone Nachmund and Nephilim, the secondary and mission changes of the latter allow Deathwatch for a more defensive playstyle, and Mikkel's list does that incredibly well. Mikkel was also making a very strong argument for this list easily surviving outside of the AUR, assuming that the mission and secondaries will not drastically change for Deathwatch. All in all, it is going to be interesting to see how exactly either style of list, aka heavy on kill teams or heavy on dreadnoughts, will perform after all the January changes are in. Speaking of which, as I covered on multiple occasions on this channel already, there are big things coming for both Space Marines and Deathwatch in January. The potential loss of the AUR aside, there will be the Arcs of Omen GT mission pack, the Balanced Status Late, as well as the Monitorum Field Manual, aka the Points Rebalance. Furthermore, GW has also released a teaser for an upcoming event in January, most likely LVO, where they will be previewing what might turn out to be that missile launcher Primaris unit we already known from previous leaks. While there are in fact a ton of leaks floating around at this point, I prefer not to go too much into speculations, so I will keep this one brief. Some of the more persisting rumors are the removal of Armor of Contempt, with Space Marines in turn getting heavy points decreases across the board, many of which are tied to war gear becoming free, which will result in something like Plasma Inceptors going back down to 40 points, which would be amazing. Now, my advice here would be to hold our horses until everything has been fully revealed, as I personally find it highly unlikely that they would make all war gear free. Just think of Proteus kill teams and the war gear on those data sheets. On the other hand, I could see it happening for some of the Primaris units, like for instance what already happened to Eliminators when they made the last Fusil free. As Mikkel and I were already discussing in regards to the Arc of Omen detachment, with such heavy points decreases, sneaking that 4th HQ in might turn out to be interesting after all, especially in case Armor of Contempt goes, in which case we might want the Dominus Sieges back for either Primaris kill teams or dreadnoughts, in which case we may have to double up on both Captain and Watchmaster, and of course those extra rerolls would be super important in case this indeed turns into a Plasma Inceptor or even discounted Hellblaster Fest. Anyway, I just wanted to give a quick heads up on this, but I will hold back on further speculations until the rules are fully out, at which point I will of course cover them and all the implications for Deathwatch in greater detail. Now, some people, myself included, do not like inaction, and therefore, if I wanted to prepare a bit for the upcoming changes, I would personally focus on the following. With what we currently know, several of the primary data sheets in our kill teams are potentially up for a discount. This does not only cover the base troop stacks, but also the previously mentioned Inceptors and even Aggressors. All of these already did work for Deathwatch under the old points values. As a result, I would personally see that I had the base troops for double Indomitor, single to double Fortis, as well as single to double Spectres available. Furthermore, thinking back to when Plasma Inceptor Indomitors were a thing, I would consider whether I would truly want to run 5 of them, or instead go back to what Deathwatch SH used to run in his firewall list, which is a combo of 3 to 2 Plasma Inceptors and 2 to 3 Aggressors. This latter approach would result in roughly 6 Aggressors and 6 Inceptors in total, assuming you magnetize and are good on either loadout. Furthermore, with Imperial Guard and Knights looking quite strong, I would want around 6 Eradicators as well. Furthermore, I think 5 eliminators remain a must, and going up to 6 potentially gives the option to run them as regular eliminator squads, as cheap as 75 points. All these datasheets come in boxes of 3, hence the argument for getting roughly 6 of them ready for whatever is going to happen. Should one or more of these datasheets truly stand out, you can always stock up on whatever is going to be, but I would hold back on over-investing at this point. For the Proteus kill team, I think the Clangby style kill team will remain competitive regardless of what will happen to Wargear prizes, and as a result, being able to run 2 of them remains a solid investment for any Deathwatch player. Having said all that, I am really looking forward to having all the rules fully out, at which point we can finally stop speculating and actually get into more serious list building. Personally, I am hyped. To wrap things up, over the course of the video, we have looked at Deathwatch December tournament results, with this time just the Leicester 40k Super Major and the Feliz Exterminatus being of greater interest. What stands out here is the return of the Dreadnought heavy lists, which might as well see a comeback, depending on how the big wave of January changes will end up for both Space Marines and the Deathwatch. Speaking of rules changes, there are a lot of leaks currently floating around, and while some changes like the removal of Armor of Contempt and heavy points decreases for Space Marines pop up fairly consistently, I would personally advise to wait with any major decisions until all the rules are officially out. This includes the new GT mission pack, the points rebalance, the balance status slate, and of course whether we can include that new Space Marine datasheet in any of our kill teams. Having said that, if I wanted to start preparing already at this point, I gave a few pointers around kill teams and their datasheets, which I think will remain the main selling point for Deathwatch in the coming months. All in all, very interesting times ahead of us, and I will be looking forward to digging more deeply into all the January changes once they are officially out. So that's it for the Deathwatch December tournament results and the upcoming January changes. What do you guys think about these particular lists and results? And what do you think GW has in store for us this new year? Let me know in the comments. Then on a final note, I wish all of you a great new year. Cheers everyone! Finally, I would also like to mention that there is a SwissHammer Facebook page where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, but not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. I do also have a Patreon page. If you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated as it helps me invest into future videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again and see you next time.